Okay, so right now we are going to smoke. This was a 12-pound Packer brisket, already trimmed up, and you can see this is not a very good trimming job by myself, but it's going to work. We're not doing any kind of competition barbecue here. This is just really good backyard barbecue. So I'm going to show you how easy it is really to get a nice good wood smoked brisket on the M1. So what we did, I've already rinsed this off, I trimmed it up, and I'm basically just leaving about a 1/4 inch of fat on one side, you know, trimming up the edges, kind of streamlining this thing a little bit. But all we're going to do for a good Texas brisket, we use kosher salt as a base and coarse black pepper. So let's put a nice bit of kosher salt on there. Flip it. Same side, same thing on the other side. All right, now coarse black pepper, and I will do this on both sides. And coarse black pepper is really going to help create a really wonderful bark. Have a little bit of kick. Now we're going to finish it off. At this point, you could use any type of barbecue rub if you prefer. You can just go salt and pepper, go very simple. But I'm going to add some B&B charcoal brand cattle call. It's just a really good all-purpose beef seasoning. Adds a really nice color as well. Make sure I get these edges. Do the same thing. Then I'm going to dust it with a little bit of the same B&B charcoal. This is a Texas Trinity. This is another all-purpose seasoning. And when you layer all these seasonings, it is just delicious. Like that. A little windy out here. It's not going to stop us. And that's it. So let's get our fire going. We're going to let this just sit here, get up to just a kind of an outdoor ambient temperature. Let's get the fire going. First thing I like to do is cover up the baffle inside of here with aluminum foil. It just keeps everything very clean and much easy to clean up. You can just put your ash bin in there to catch ashes, but you know, if you get any juice that drips down there, it just hits the aluminum foil and it'll stay there, so it's easy just to, you know, it's dried up. Just pull it out real quick. With the new M1, you'll see that there's a baffle cover, and what this is you could take out this baffle cover, and if you want really hot baking temperatures in here, it has more airflow. It just allows it to get much hotter. But if you want that more of a low and slow, 250, 275 or below, put in your basically like a tuning plate. And as you put this in, it just places right on top of your baffle and acts like a regulator. So it will just control your temperatures at a much stable, much lower smoking range. Right now, I just have a very simple hot bed of charcoal. As you can see here, it's about 1 chimney, and I did add a little bit more on top of it, and that's going to be a nice charcoal base for when we start throwing wood on there. And all we're going to do at this point is just keep this a wood burning fire. So that's all the charcoal we're going to add, no more. That's it. Temperature wise, we are right at a little under 250. It took about 45 minutes or so. Actually, I take it back. It took about 30 minutes to get up to this temperature here. I have my damper here fully open. So you can see in there, it's fully open. Firebox door is fully open. So once it gets up to temp, and I'm actually shooting for 275. It's getting a little bit close. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shut my door down just a little bit. Not all the way, about halfway. Just to slow everything down in there just a bit. I will leave this one fully open, and all I do with this, with the lid damper, is I use that for fine tuning. So if I just need to adjust 5 degrees or 10 degrees, I'll use the stack damper. Okay, we're a little bit over 250. Now I'm gonna go get some wood, and we will start feeding this thing wood and get our wood burning fire going. The thermometer right now has stabled at 250, so I'm actually going to go back. I'm going to open this up just a little bit more. That's it. Now let it rise just a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and throw a stick of wood on. So when I'm burning with wood on the M1, I do want to look for more consistent size pieces. This is a perfect size. You can go smaller, you can go bigger, but it's good to know with whatever size you put on there for your next load in your firebox, try to match that, and that'll keep your temperatures a lot more stable. So it's easy. All you're going to do for a real wood burning fire, just put that in here. I do like to use my great tools to move logs around. If I need to push them in a little bit, no problem. And that's it. Now when you first put a stick of wood in, you'll notice that you're going to get a lot of heavy smoke, and usually that's just the initial wood is just kind of burning in a little bit, any moisture out of it, but just let it do its thing. It'll clear out. You'll have a nice thin pretty blue smoke, and it's just at this point it's all a matter of the airflow, the air ratio to how well you have a clean wood burning fire. But the M1 is going to do all the work for you, so it's a piece of cake. I like to use a pan like this when I'm smoking briskets or any large cuts of meat for a drip catch. So what I'll do, I will pull out my grates, and I'm going to put this directly on the charcoal grate right underneath my food. If I want, I could put it directly on top of the baffle, and I could add water to it for a water pan as well. So when I am burning wood, I typically want to always leave my damper fully open unless I just need to bring the temperature down a little bit. So I'll just mainly just regulate the entire heat from the firebox door and leave this fully open. The key with a good wood burning fire is you want a clean burning fire. So you don't want a lot of heavy smoke. You don't want any billowing white or brown smoke. That nice transparent blue smoke is what you're aiming for. So now that the M1's up to temp, let's go ahead and put our brisket on. So I'm going to take my brisket, and I'm putting the fat cap towards the end, but I want to put it just right in the center as possible. I could go this way or this way. If I want 2 briskets, I could put another one there, but I like to put it right in the center because your hottest area is going to be right here and right there. But from here to there, it's just dead even. So this is perfect. So many people also like to run a temperature probe inside your meat, which if you don't have a ton of experience with briskets, I highly recommend using one of these. This particular one is a ThermalWorks Smoke. What I like to do is put it right about halfway in the brisket, put it right in the center. You could run this probe now anywhere along the outside. So I'm going to turn this on, I'm going to plug it in. Now that's going to give us the internal temperature of our brisket. And what we are looking for when it's all said and done is about 205. It's perfect. Just put our brisket on, but real quick before I clean up my mess over here, what I want to tell you is when you are shopping for your brisket, when you are at the store or the butcher, wherever you're at, when you pick up your brisket, hold it in your hands and see if you could fold that brisket over itself. If you pick up a brisket, sometimes that thing just doesn't even want to budge. Like, I skip those briskets, and this is not anything, this is not a prime or wagyu, this is just a standard choice brisket. But when you look for your brisket, pick it up and try to fold it. If it has a lot of give and wants to fold really nice, I mean, if you can make that thing just curl up, perfect, that's going to be a good brisket. But if you got some that is so tough, from my experience, when I get a super tough brisket like that, typically after you smoke it, it's still going to be a little bit tough. So I like to go for a brisket that already, and also if you can find one that has a nice consistency of thickness. Sometimes the flat might be pretty thin, and then you have the fat cap area is really thick, and so it's just real too firm. But if you could find one that it's kind of has a nice consistency of the flat and the fat cap, then typically I like to go for those briskets. But if not, you could always just bring it home and trim out as much as you can to get it to work out for you. But yeah, there's something to keep in mind when you're at the store shopping for your brisket. Alright, since we put our brisket on, our temperature's climbing up to about 300. It's no problem, and we haven't touched anything. This is the lid stack is fully open. I did close down the firebox a little bit, so I don't want to close it down any more than that because I don't want to starve oxygen to my wood. So what I'm going to do is now just kind of fine tune this. Is I'm going to crank this probably about halfway, and then we'll watch this temperature drop and kind of regulate a little bit, and that's it. But I still have a pretty good quality smoke coming out. I know it's hard to see, but it's not crazy, it's not brown. A little white, but not too bad. But as I bring this down, because since that was a large piece of wood, and I still had a fresh bed of charcoal in there, it's going to be a little bit hot. But you can see now, the temperature's already jumping down a little bit. That's all it takes. It's so easy to control the temperature on the M1. It's just ridiculous. And if it starts dropping, and if it drops a little bit too much, no problem. I'm just going to open this up about a quarter of a way. So real quick, so I'm already on 275, and just to make sure it doesn't drop anymore, I'm going to open this up about a quarter of a turn. Now let's watch the temperature, and it should just stay right at 275. Yep, so it looks like it's about regulated right there. It's dipping down just a hair. Let's open it up just a hair. That's all it's going to take. So I think it's going to be perfect right there. And that's it. We can just check our fire real quick. I mean, we got a nice flame. That is a pretty big stick of wood. But what you like to see in a good smoker is that you don't have a lot of smoke blowing out of your firebox door. You want it coming out of the stack, and you don't want any smoke coming around any gaps around the lids anywhere. By the time you mix that with your insulated firebox, this cooker is so easy to maintain temperatures and to cook on, whether you're charcoal smoking or stick burning. Now we're in, and you can see I'm a little bit below 275. So let's check our wood. But we still got a pretty good piece in there, so I'm gonna throw another piece. Another log of wood in. It smells so good. And I'm not going to touch the dampers at all. I'm not touching the stack. I'm not touching the firebox door. That's it. Just threw another log in. We can check our internal temperature of the brisket is 83. All right. I'm just going to repeat this process. Come out every hour, just check it, see where it's at, and that's it. So it's been 3 hours. So there's the thermostat here. There we go. So, I mean, we're just right above 275. We have an internal temperature on the brisket at 145. So it hasn't hit the stall yet. Nice clear smoke. Nice good heat coming through. We are burning only wood. There's a nice wood fire in there. I do have this choked down. So what I realized with these sticks of wood I have, they are pretty big. So if I was to leave this fully open, then, or the damper's fully open, then it's actually just going to get really too hot. So what I did is I'll wait till they get up to temperature, and then I'll start closing it down just to stabilize everything. And that's working out very well. If you notice this cap right here, that cap, you could easily pop that out. And if you want to add a Flame Boss or Barbecue Guru, you can actually use a fan controlled temperature on here. So you just shut the vents fully, have your thermostat running into the grill, have it all fan controlled, and you don't have to come out here and babysit it. So you do have that option with the new M1s. We will do some videos coming up showing that feature, but for right now we're just going to kind of more of a classic, just your standard smoking. One thing you want to make sure you do when you are burning with wood is just to make sure you don't let your fire go too low as far as your temperature. I mean, we still got a pretty good, piece of a wood in there that's burning. But if you wait until, let's say, since your wood does burn much faster than charcoal, right now we're a little under 275, about 260. But if we let this burn down, but even though our temperature inside the pit is still fine, then it's going to be really hard to ignite the next piece of wood that we add in. So you just kind of have to watch it when you are stick burning, just to make sure that you put the piece of wood on while you still got a pretty good fire in your firebox. If you don't, then you throw the piece of wood on there. Maybe it's just kind of smoldering for a while. It just doesn't have enough to really ignite the next piece. So just stuff to consider. We'll look at this one more time. Yeah, it's still burning good. But I could just go ahead and, if I want to, go and just add another one in there. Keeping my dampers the same. I'm not adjusting anything. That should keep everything really consistent. And so right now I'm at, let's see, 149. All right, just so just since we are about to wrap this, we're about almost 160 again. It's definitely hitting the stall period. Let's check out our bark. Let's see what our brisket's looking like. Now you can see our color is there. Our bark is already forming, which is beautiful. It's exactly what we want. Brisket right now has an internal temperature of 168, so I'm really close to that 170 degrees mark. So I got me some brown butcher paper. What I'm going to do at this point, just to speed it through the stall that I talked about earlier, we're going to speed it through there. So we're going to take our brisket off, wrap it in butcher paper, and then put it back on the cooker. So since this paper is a little small and it's super windy out here, let me use some wood as a paperweight. See if I can do it like this. There we go. Okay. Got a brisket. That bark is looking really good. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out. That is looking really good. So, to wrap it, wrap it up really tight. I'm using multiple pieces of paper here because it's a little small. That'll work. Put this back on here. And that's it. So now that we have the brisket back on the M1, at this point we can continue just loading sticks of wood in it to finish out the cook, because we're just going to continue cooking this brisket till we hit 205. So, or since it's not really going to get any more smoke to it, we can load the basket up with some lump charcoal, start closing the vents down, and just let it just smoke for hours without having to babysit it at this point. So it's really up to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw some charcoal in the basket now and just let it cook the remaining of the way. Alright, so we're coming up to 198 degrees, starting to get in that 200 territory. So I'm going to take my thermal pin, and this is just a internal temperature reader. So I'm going to go ahead and start kind of probing around here. And we'll see where I'm at. And what I'm looking for is just to make sure when I do probe this that it seems just to go in very easy. I mean, we'll just slide in like butter. See, the middle is about at, yeah, it's about 196 or so. So I'm gonna let it get just a little bit hotter, and then we're gonna pull it off and we'll let it rest for at least 1 hour. Okay, that's another key. Is some people, when they're smoked their briskets, they just take them off. They don't let them rest. Go ahead and slice into it. If you do that, the juices are gonna run out fast. So remember, let your briskets rest first before you slice it. At least 1 hour. If you can do 2 hours, great, but 1 hour at least. Go ahead and pull the brisket off, because we look like we're about done. Oh, that smells good. All right, I'm gonna go put this, let it just rest in the oven for a little bit. At least 1 hour. But you can see here, the bark is just phenomenal. That is a perfect bark. Got a pretty nice jiggle to it. I think this is gonna be really good. Look how flaky this bark is. And that's gonna be perfect. So, let it sit here for a minute, kind of cool off just a little bit, then we're gonna slice it up. And when we do slice it, we're gonna start from here. So we slice it against the grain. This is the flat, this is the point. We're gonna slice it up this way, and then when we get to about here, we're gonna flip it and start slicing this up this way. And then we're gonna get nice burn ends from this area right over here. And that's about it. It looks delicious, can't wait to dig in. Let me see here. Make sure I get that in frame. It's super tender, even right off the end here. Just breaking off. I get one. You also see that nice smoke ring. You definitely want a good smoke ring on there. Get a little tug. Breaks off very easy.
Okay.
Okay, Sky. Take a bite. Tell me what you think. Sky approved.
If you want this, it has to be approved by me. And if you made it my dad's way, then it's approved.
Y'all heard it, people.
Yummy.
Wood smoked brisket on an M grill, M1.
Done.
Thanks, guys.